Whether you're here to learn K2 shortcuts, learn how to Magflip like a pro, or learn the shortcut techniques on the castle, I've got it all covered in this guide, as well as how to race it at different levels like Diamond, Elite, Champion, and Unreal, and even the top of the game, top 50, where I am. Let's hop right into it. So we're going to start with how I race this at top 50 Unreal, and then we're going to go into each individual technique that I use, break them down how to train and do them yourself, and whether or not you should even bother to learn them, because a lot of techniques you actually don't need unless you're really high rank. So for example, I always take the castle. However, by the end of this video, I'm going to convince you that you probably don't need it. However, I will still show you in step-by-step detail how to train and do it. I also try to hit this Magflip in both the thrusters before that every single time. I air flip over one of these two, and then I just jump up and jump down over the second one. I then try to get a 2 to 3 chain drift through here until my speed starts to drop. I notice a drop and a release. A release right before I get to this boost pad, hit it, drop down, right next to the yellow line, drift, and then re-trigger my drift again. I then try to hit the back castle pad with the back of my car. Although it's not technically world record fastest, as down flipping would be faster, I find it's very reliable and very safe way to do it. As you can see, I once again get the Magflip and double boost pads on the top of the thrusters. I then drop down, and again I try to get my 2 to 3 chain drifts. There's 2, then we release right through here, jump up, hit this boost pad, and come back down. Again, trying to land close to the yellow line as possible, re-triggering my drift twice, back of the car into the boost pad, rinse and repeat. One of the most important time saves of the map is in fact hitting both of these, and here I end up only hitting one of them, which does slow me down a little bit, which actually kind of ruined it so I don't get a sub 130 run. However, still good enough to show for the purposes of this video. So the main techniques that I think that are the biggest for speed would be the castle, getting the double boost pads on the turbo on the top, as well as getting the Magflip, and a few other places we can flip around there. So let's dive into that one by one, and then I will show you at Elite, Diamond, Champion, and Unreal how I would go about racing it if I was that rank and less mechanical. So let's first talk about the castle shortcut. I'm going to play in 0.5 times speed, how you should train, and the techniques you're going to need. So to start, I would suggest just booting up, and then driving along the coals and activating your drift 2 times, and not even trying to hit any of the pads. All you have to do is hold your thrusters non-stop, and then land. To do this technique, all you need to do is know to be able to hold drift in the air. So just while you're in the air, hold your drift button. Once you can press your drift button 2 times and do that, again drop down to the coals, drift through the coals again, and then just try to hit the second booster pad with the back of your car. Let's watch that one more time, and you'll notice that I never air flip, never do anything like that. I just bump my back of my car into it, and then we keep going. Once you can do that about 5 out of 6 laps, try doing it again, except just don't drop on the coals. Skip the first one and just go for the second one. That one's pretty safe and honestly good enough to get you to pretty high Unreal. And then of course the last step to doing K2 castle skip would be able to hit both the castle things on the side. You drop down, don't hit the coals, drift twice, and then hit both. This does give you a lot more speed, but honestly I don't know if it's really worth it for everyone. If you are going to practice it though, be very careful of this ledge. After you drift twice, if you just jump up high enough, you end up missing it and often bouncing off. If you do, it's not normally the end of the world, just stay calm. I'm now going to show you a side-by-side of the outside path of the castle versus only hitting one booster pad on the castle. Also, for all my hard work, would you mind hitting the subscribe button, like button, and all that stuff? I feel like I have to ask, otherwise it won't happen. Okay, so as you can see, when you take similar paths, only manage to hit one booster pad, and look at that, it's only under a second slower. Meaning unless you're at the top of the top ranks, it's probably not worth doing. Feel free to join the Discord by the way if you have any questions, links in the description. Now let's talk about how you hit both these thruster pads, and more specifically, the problems with them. If you wait too long to hit it, or are too high, you end up bouncing off of it. Instead, what you want to do is kind of hit this middle angle right here, where you're a little bit lower to the ground, and over the lava, and then flip up, and you pretty well get a perfect double boost every single time. It does obviously take a bit of practice. Just make sure you don't turbo until you actively hit the boost pads, because otherwise I've seen people do this, and then you're real sad. Okay, let's talk about the Magflip after, because that actually gives a lot of speed. So you want to line your car up with the white hand side here on the left, and then you want to air roll just as you're about to hit it to the left, and make sure, look how high up I am. I'm about level with the rockside cliff. And this is a very advanced technique. I wouldn't recommend it unless you're, again, pretty high Unreal. Unless you just want to learn Magflips and have fun with them. Magflips are, just so you know, snapping to areas that you can't normally. The game thinks we're attaching to the cliffside, but since we're so far away, it kind of just pulls us with momentum towards it without actually having us attach, giving us free extra speed. I then try to aim with these lava balls at this spot here always. I see a lot of people hit the Magflip, but then float all the way to the left of the lava balls, kind of defeating the purpose of the speed, because now you're very far from the inside track. Lastly, just in case you're a beginner, when you jump and you're going through the air, pull back on your analog stick, like down towards you, and your car will tilt up, allowing you to float in the air for much longer. That's how I get these distances. Make sure you're doing that basically every time you're in the air on all tracks. Now if you're a more beginner player and you don't know, you can actually buy and drift and air dodge different buttons. This helps you drift and then flip in the air or flip down in the air, which I know a lot of people struggle with. You can do it on the default controls if you're fast enough. I highly recommend rebinding them to 2 different buttons though. Alright, I think I've covered basically all the basics for this map and the advanced parts, the different ways to do them, and the problem areas to look out for. So let me show you the route that I would suggest you take if you're Diamond and Elite. I'm going to do it a little bit sloppier. So first I drift left, don't hit 100% speed because that's normal, and I do one long single drift right. Here I just hold my analog stick as long as possible. If you can air flip around, air flip around. If you can't, no big deal. You don't have to air flip down like you saw. You can just hover in the air. I'm going to try to make a little bit of mistakes because you know your timing's not great. If you can air flip, I would recommend it. If not, on lap 2 you'll see we can just hover. Let's run it back though and make sure you can get this mechanic because I've seen a lot of Elites and Diamonds not know this or not realize how strong it is. Make sure that when you're air, you're pulling backwards on your analog stick. Notice how the tip of my car is floating up in the air higher than the rest of my car. See right here, see how it goes back up in the air? That allows me to float for longer than the average player. Make sure you do this basically any time that you need. On lap 2, as you can see, I turbo around that turn, and again here, if you can't air flip, it's no big deal. Just jump up, hold your drift button while you're in the air, and your drift will continue. When you land, you're all good to go. And again, sometimes you'll be able to hit this nice, sometimes not. And if you can't air flip in the air, just kind of hover it around. As long as you're landing somewhere in the inside track, you're good. Same with here, if you can't down flip, it's all good. The most important thing is to carry your drift and hold the angle. Same with even here, if you can't chain drift, just single drifts from side to side are good. If you accidentally turbo here because you can't remember if to do it on lap 2 or 3, it's not the end of the world. You will still have enough drift for the important parts. And if you miss boost pads, again, it's not a big deal. I'm trying to show you kind of a sloppier-ish example of a Diamond or Elite with the mechanics and realistically what you can do. This way you can compare the time at the end, compared to what you normally hit in races, and see how much faster this actually is. So again, we're just hopping. If you can downflip, it's better. But see, we don't have enough turbo at the end. And saving turbo for the end is the fastest, because there's a catch-up mechanic in the game that if you're behind other people, you move faster. So it's better to save turbos for later on in the races, or ideal spots. 142. Compare that to what you're normally getting, and see if it's faster. If it is, that's great. Now let's cover how champions to decently high in real, the route I would suggest you take, and compare the times at the end, and you'll be shocked to see that's pretty good. So I normally get a chain drift at the start if I hit 100% or close to it speed. Again, here I'm just holding the left analog stick as hard as possible and taking a sharp turn as possible. I straighten out and get the boost pad. Then again, one single drift, no chain drifting. Chain drifting actually slows you down. We've been practicing being able to hit that, so now we can air flip left and drop down between those 2 lava pads just like my main route. First I do one air flip, then one down flip. If you can drop down and you have the reaction time too, I recommend it. If you can't, we'll cover it on second lap. So again, the second turn, great spot, line up, good to go. I save the turbo because using the turbo on lap 3 is in fact faster because of the catch-up mechanic. We drop down, same thing, one long single drift, and we don't have to get this perfect every single time. If we mess up, that's fine. We can't really expect everyone to hit it perfect every single time. Again, drift, one air flip, and one down flip. If you don't feel like you had the reaction time to be able to do what I said before, just float in between here. Not hitting the lava is more important than saving the 0.1 second of drifting earlier. We drift around this turn, releasing our speed, landing on the right-hand edge so that when we get a drift, we can drift as far as possible, as fast as possible. Drop down, one long single drift, and again, same route. Hit these as you can, air flip left. I personally don't even recommend trying for the Magflip. That's why you can see them a lot further right. Because if you try for the Magflip and miss the checkpoint, you lose a race. Just straight out. You have to be very good at it to be able to make it worth. And there you go. Those are the routes I would take. My route, Elite routes, Diamond routes, and the routes that I suggest if you're a lower rank. Thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully I broke this down. If I missed any sections or you have any questions, again, hop into the Discord. Links in the description. We're more than happy to explain everything. I'm currently rank about 35 in the world, and hopefully this knowledge helps you guys out. Subscribe for more. Have a good one, everyone.